Jungkook, please. You don't have to bottle everything up anymore. I'm worried about you. It passed in silence as Jungkook thought about his options. She's right. He doesn't have to hide anymore. It's just, he's not entirely sure he can actually explain how he really feels. He's not even sure if he himself knows. I'm just so lonely. He choked out the words like he was coughing up poison. Janaya stayed silent, waiting for him to continue. And I know, he sucked in a sharp breath. He did his best to blink away the tears. I know that it's my fault. All I wanna do is stay inside and just victimize myself. When really, I'm the problem. Once again, Janaya stayed silent to digest what Jungkook had just confessed. His words lingered in the air like the clouds in his cold tea. She rose from her seat, padding her way across the room to kneel next to the chair Jungkook was seated in. That was very brave of you, Jungkook. She pressed a comforting hand against his knee, her nails drawing patterns in the fabric of his joggers. She cleared her throat. When was the last time you Jungkook? Package for you. Daisy waltzed into the room carrying a small brown box. She dropped it into his lap, making her exit faster than she had entered. He almost went cross-eyed as he looked down at it. Didn't know mail came on holidays, Janaya shrugged. She brought a manicure band up to her mouth, almost like she was hiding a smile. Jungkook held the package in his hand, feeling how light it was. He wouldn't be surprised if it was just air. He tore through the seams to reveal an even smaller box inside. Janaya gazed inside the package before deciding that she was uninterested. She retreated into the kitchen with the rest of his family chatting. The miniature box brought a sense of familiarity to his mind that he just couldn't pinpoint. Under the box lies a note, crisp cardstock. The crushed velvet tickled the pads of his fingers as he popped the box open. While he was doing so, his eyes scanned over the note. Thought you might want this. I'm sure you'll feel some freedom throwing this away like you did with yours. Muck dropped once he read the initials. Maybe the spiked eggnog from earlier was his head. It couldn't be. His eyes immediately flicked to the box to inspect what was inside. He choked out a gasp at the sight. There, Taekook's wedding ring lay in a bed of silk, shiny, but you could tell it had been worn. The blood drained from his face, his skin going cold. His fingers stuttered as he grazed the silver band. The feeling was so familiar. He felt it every time he and Taekook held hands, how smooth it was compared to Taekook's rough, natural hands. Jungkook. We're gonna play cards. Jungkook. Janaya stopped in the doorway. Are you alright? He stared up at her with beady, unbelieving eyes. She snatched the card from his trembling hands. Taekook, do you wanna play or not? Daisy leaned against the door frame, clearly feeling very impatient. We have an emergency. Janaya sprinted to the kitchen, flailing the card around to parade it to their family. Jungkook's shocked expression morphed into somewhat of a smile. He's not quite sure how to feel. He was shocked at first, but now he's frightened, sensitive, and overjoyed. They all clash with each other and mix into some unknown emotion. Oh my God, Jungkook mumbled. What did he send you? All of his sisters came barreling back into the living room to rummage through the box. Guys, it is bottom lip. I have to go back. Back home? Yes. Home. He jumped out of his seat and dashed up the stairs. He hung right into the room he was staying in to collect his things. His sisters followed him like a hurricane, immediately bombarding him with questions. Why are you going back? Are you guys getting back together? Don't you think this is a little impulsive? Janaya had always been wise beyond her years. He always took it for granted. He paused his packing to think. Is he being stupid? Going back home after Taekook basically said he didn't want him? Is it too late? No. I have to go now. He flung his laptop out of his bag to book the next flight back to New York, back to Taekook. He slobbered his sister's cheeks in kisses at the front door. They cheered him on like he was leaving for his first date. Hell, maybe it will be. I guess it would technically be a second first date, but whatever. No time for technicalities. Open up, Jungkook. Do it for me. Janaya patted his shoulder approvingly. I'll try. He wished his final farewells before racing to his Uber. His Uber sped out of the driveway just like he had asked. His heart raced in the back seat of the car. He bit his lip to keep himself from screaming, out of joy or sadness. He doesn't know. He doesn't know what he's going to say to him yet. He's still trying to dissect his thoughts and emotions. But like Janaya said, he needs to open up. He has to speak up once and for all, no matter if it will start something or end something. Jungkook was running on adrenaline at this point. He took long confident strides through the airport like he had a mission, which he did. He just got off of what felt like the longest flight of his life. He didn't sleep or blink. He couldn't get his eyes to stay shut for longer than 5 seconds. Just the thought of him seeing Taekook, non-accidentally, had him teetering over the edge of some kind of psychotic episode. His heartbeat matched to the beat of his heavy footfalls. Quick! He stepped outside, the cold December air leaving goosebumps in its wake. His lovely driver was waiting right out front for him. He slid into the back seat like he had done much earlier. Good to see you again, Mr. Jeon, he chuckled. You've been with me for so long, just call me Jungkook. His driver nodded even though he never would actually call him by his first name. He was extremely professional, although that doesn't mean he isn't pleasant. Where to? He had only just realized that he didn't know Taekook's address. He's sure he's still not living at their old place. Or maybe he is. It's worth a shot. New address 2791 Brookville Avenue. He typed the address into the GPS and they were off. He's beginning to think that this is a terrible, horrible, completely horrendous idea. His nerves worsened the closer they got to Taekook's home. Every single time CD would ping, he would flinch. Take the next right on South End Street. His fingers had found their way to the drawstrings of his hoodie to keep himself busy. The ring box was tucked into the pocket of his jeans for easy access, not entirely sure what he's going to do with it though. Taekook gave it back to him for a reason. Your destination is on the left. There it was, the same building it always had been. The modern style that Jungkook always hated. He stared for a minute too long. He didn't want to go in anymore. But he was already here. He can't fly back to London now. He took a deep breath. Thank you for the ride, always a pleasure. Jungkook smiled at his driver one last time before taking the leap of faith and stepping out of the car. He stood on the sidewalk for a moment, taking in his surroundings. The dirty pavement, the cool-toned lights, the awaiting city down the block. The nostalgia was overwhelming. He tried to imagine himself still living here. He couldn't. The lobby was empty, so he was free to just slip right by. For how expensive the rent is, you'd think that they would have better security for this place. He thumbed at the velvet box in his pocket as he waited for the elevator to come to a stop. The small lift was almost suffocating. It had his lungs rising and collapsing in short intervals. He mumbled some lifeless words of assurance as the doors opened. Before he knew it, He was standing in front of his old apartment. He read the plate over and over again. Apartment 918. He's stalling. It's now or never. He rapidly crushed a finger against the doorbell, heading it echo on the other side of the wall. Silence, his friend and enemy. Then, steps got increasingly louder as they reached the door. His fight or flight kicked in. He chose flight. He sharply turned before stopping abruptly as the door clicked open. Jungkook, Taehyung. His voice was breathy and light as though he had lost it. Taehyung had never looked more breathtaking, even in sweet queen. His short locks curtained over his forehead. The waistband of his boxers peeked out over arms were crossed over his chest. He looked so delectable. He was so focused on drinking in Taehyung's appearance that he didn't notice his expectant gaze looking down on him. "Oh, got you a gift." He stuffed his hand into his pocket, ripping out the box promptly. Taehyung's eyes flicked down to the box before looking back at Jungkook. His eyebrows were cinched together tightly. He didn't look too happy. "You don't give back gifts, sweetheart." Jungkook bit his lip, feeling utterly embarrassed. His cheeks flushed as Taehyung's gaze on him never wavered. What was he even thinking? Crawling back after Taehyung basically said it's over,